Harmonic. E7. To get that vocabulary into your playing as an improviser is gonna take years. Now, you will have progress during those years, and there will also be times that you progress a lot. You'll notice like, oh, the past 3 months, I really made a jump. But there will also be many, many months in a row that you feel like you're not progressing at all. And I've been through that whole process myself, and I'll talk about that more. But there's a guitar player on YouTube called, or his channel is called Just a Dude Practicing. And basically what he does is he's practicing, well, he's been doing that for the past 2 months. It might change. Maybe you're watching this 10 years in the future and he's doing something else. But for the past 2 months or 3 months, he's been practicing exclusively my materials, namely Book 2 from the Van-Hemert System series. And he's now working Book 3, and he finished Book 2 completely, which means that he sent me a video of each chapter doing the exercise. And those exercises are not easy. So for someone to do every exercise in the book, and he actually did all of them, or most of them, but more than most people did actually, and that's already a huge accomplishment. So by doing that, he climbed to the highest level in my Discord. You get a level every time you complete the chapter, and if you complete the book, you get the next book for free. I mean, you can do that one time. So Book 3 he got for free, and he's now working on it. And the interesting part about it is, because more people have finished the book and climbed to the highest level, is that he's vlogging his practice sessions every day, or every day that he practices, but it's almost every day for 2 hours on YouTube on a channel called Just a Dude Practicing. And every month on the 1st, he's doing a recap or his thoughts on the past month, the reflections. And it's always interesting for me to watch, of course, because I mean, he's working on my stuff. So it's very good for me to hear his thoughts. Makes me think about my methodology, but also makes me think about my own progress as a guitar player. So I want to react to his latest video. It's May 1st today, so this is his May 1st reflections. Let's watch it.
Hey, I'm Just a Dude Practicing. This channel is the riveting real-time tale of a dude trying to get better at gypsy jazz guitar. I upload every single guitar practice session, and I basically don't touch this thing outside of what you see here on the channel. So the overall goal is to be good enough to...
Well, right there I could stop, of course. He says he doesn't touch the guitar outside of the practice sessions. That basically means that he's never jamming with someone else. That's the obvious conclusion. I didn't actually watch this video before. I only watched the first 10 minutes to see what it was about a little bit. I think he's going to say more about this, but it is actually important that as soon as you know a couple of tunes, let's say you know 5 tunes, that means that you can play the chords and maybe you know the theme, and you have some idea of some vocabulary that you can use. It doesn't have to be good or anything. It's actually important that you try and find someone, preferably also someone that can play those tunes. Maybe someone a little bit better than you, that would be great, but anyone would do that can play guitar and this style a little bit, to actually play together, because there is stuff that you can only learn by playing with someone else, but I'll get to that later. So if you only touch the guitar ever in the practice sessions, I understand what you're saying, and you've got a lot better. I mean, you actually you sound really good when you did the exercises. You can never reach the goal that you have of playing in a band, because I know that's your goal, if you don't actually take the guitar out of the practice session and also start playing with someone else.
Gig, and that means rhythm and soloing. And for the last few months, I've been exclusively trying to learn how to solo. So this is my monthly progress report for...
I have to say here, I don't... some people say you shouldn't learn to solo if you cannot play rhythm. I understand that sentiment, and there is a very obvious benefit that if you can play rhythm, then you can play with someone else, right? Because then he can play solo while you play rhythm, and then you can play solo while the other guy plays rhythm. So you want to actually have a rudimentary skill in both rhythm and soloing, but if you have to choose, only rhythm, of course. Now, I think learning to play rhythm is not that difficult. Of course, you can make it very difficult, but I just say like the basis to play rhythm, you don't have to make it very difficult. I have many videos about that. I will link one. But yeah, start working on that a little bit.
May 1st, in these progress reports, I like to go over what I'm working on, how things are going, what's improved, challenges I'm facing, and that sort of thing. So the big question is, am I better than I was a month ago? So in the last month, I've practiced about 54 hours. That's 2 hours a day. I did miss 3 days. So here's what I was working on.
54 hours sounds like a lot of hours, and I think it's really good. But just to give you some perspective, if you look at the top players in any style, it could be classical, could be bluegrass, could be probably metal. I don't know anything about metal, but I can imagine like the speed metal stuff that's really very fast, or gypsy jazz, or bebop, or tango, or any style that you can think of. If you look at the solo players in that style, like the people that are name players, right? You go out to see them. Whenever you talk to them and you ask them about how long they practiced, invariably they're gonna say, yeah, there was a period of time in my life I was practicing 6 to 10 hours a day. That's just a fact. Everyone I talk to of that level, like Stochela Rosenberg, Moses Rosenberg, a bunch of bluegrass players I talked to, but also I did it. When I was young, I practiced 6 hours a day classical violin. When I started playing bandoneon, I was practicing 4 to 6 hours of bandoneon. I did it for like 3 years. When I switched to guitar, I went very extreme. I was practicing basically the whole day. Like when I really got obsessed with the guitar, and I started very late. I started after I was 30, right? So, of course, I could play some open chords, but I didn't have any picking technique. I had no vocabulary and nothing. So I started practicing 6 to 10 hours a day immediately. And I kept that up for many years, and I still, to this day, practice around 4 to 6 hours a day. So just to give some perspective on how many hours you could actually be spending on the guitar to get to a certain level. It's insane. It's not only guitar, right? It's every instrument, but just talking from my experience.
I was spending all of my time on book 2 of something called the Van-Hemert system. And the Van-Hemert system is a way to learn how to solo in jazz and gypsy jazz by this guy, Christiaan van-Hemert. So I was working on book 2. And the way it works, I've explained it in other progress reports, but I'll explain it here again. You have 10 chapters, and the first 7 chapters have sets of licks. So the first chapter is, I think it's 4 major licks. The second chapter is 4 or 5 or 6 minor licks. You've got a bunch of chapters of 2-5-1s and some dominant licks. And the idea is to play those licks.
Notice that I never call it licks in the book. And the reason I don't call it licks in the book is not because I have anything against the word licks. I mean, I basically think of them as licks. And when I talk to people, I call them licks. And I say, do you know this lick? And, oh, that's a cool lick. But I've noticed that for some people, the word lick is, I wouldn't say offensive, but it makes them not be interested in what it could be, or they don't want to have anything to do with it because they hate lick players. But I've heard that many times, oh, that's just a lick player. So I noticed that when you say phrases, people are much more receptive to it. And there's also famous teachers that call these things phrases. But a phrase for me is just a lick. They're synonymous for me. There might be a difference for some people, but for me it's the same. Now, when people say, oh, that's a lick player, what I hear them say is, this guy has better vocabulary than me. That's what I basically hear. Might not be true, might not be true. Some people that say that might actually have very good vocabulary. But usually, when you hear a lot of very attractive notes, right? Because basically that's what a lick is. A lick is a couple of notes in a row with a certain rhythm. a certain phrasing and articulation that sounds very attractive. Now, if you say that he's a lick player, then what you're basically saying is he's playing a lot of very attractive sounding notes. If you cannot play like that yourself, then you're just basically admitting that your vocabulary is not as good. Now, is having a good vocabulary the most important thing in jazz? No, it isn't, right? The most important thing in jazz is two things. It's timing and flow. And technique is probably part of it because you need to produce the notes. So those two things are the most important parameters. Now, but if there are two players and they both have good timing and good flow, but one has nice vocabulary, then obviously that player is a little bit better because he has more attractive things to say. And I know this from experience because I, for years, played with a piano player who was a very good piano player, like technically and also timing-wise and repertoire-wise. He knew all the tunes. If he didn't know it, he could learn it very fast. And he was very musical. But the only thing that was missing is the interesting vocabulary. So everything he played was okay. It fit in the chords. It had good flow. And it wasn't offensive or anything. It wasn't weird. It also was not in the style. There was some blues stuff there, and the notes were okay. But there was never a moment you could stop and say, "Oh, I want to actually transcribe what he just played," because it was very scalar and abstract. Lots of chromaticism in there, and it sounded fine. But if you compare that to Oscar Peterson or Al Garner or McCoy Tyner, Bud Powell, Hank Jones, Kenny Barron, they all have a very deliberate and recognizable vocabulary. If you compare them to those players, he had the same time feel, he had the same amount of technique. He could play anything, he could play in octaves, he could play a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't as nice. And the reason for that was the vocabulary. So I once told him, like, "Man, you play so great. Did you ever transcribe some Bill Evans or Mokotana?" And he said, "No, I never did it. I was more into scales and stuff." And obviously he played fine, but he'd probably be the person to say when he would listen to Oscar Peterson. Well, not Oscar Peterson, because Oscar Peterson, of course, is kind of sacred, so you don't say anything. But let's say a guy that plays like Oscar Peterson, he'd probably say, "He's kind of a licks player." But what I hear then is, this guy has better vocabulary than me. That's what I hear. But I might be wrong there.
The licks of each chapter as a set in all 12 keys against a backing track that's at 170 BPM. So I passed the book on April 2nd. It took me 2.5 months, about 70 practice sessions, 2 hours each. It was a lot. It was a lot of
140 hours. I think that's a accomplishment. I mean, that's great. I think you did it pretty fast. Yeah.
work. It was harder than I thought, although I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I saw major improvements in speed and technique, and
me too.
Definitely major improvements in vocabulary, because I had zero vocabulary and now I have some infinite gains. I have notes here, so I don't want to ramble too much. Honestly, it feels like I passed the book months ago. I can't believe it was only 4 weeks ago. So I started every chapter thinking, there's no way I'm going to be able to play this at 170 BPM. It's just beyond me. But with a lot of metronome work, a lot of backing track work, just a ton of repetition, there you go. 70 practice sessions later, I passed.
For the people that watch this and are interested in the book, what he's describing here is also the methodology that's in the book of how to practice it. There's a metronome system, there's these backing tracks. So I don't just present the phrases and let you figure it out on your own. There is a methodology. It does take a lot of time. So you cannot do it just by practicing once a week, or twice a week for half an hour. You will never be able to do any of the set exercises. It actually requires you to practice every day for at least an hour. Then there's also a Discord where you can ask questions and watch other people who have done it. And you can watch this channel and see him practice all the set exercises. So there is help there, right? That's one of the things that I try to accomplish with the book. It's a lonely endeavor getting better at jazz improvising or jazz guitar, especially in the beginning, when you are a total beginner when it comes to jazz, right? Not when it comes to guitar, right? I assume you can already play guitar, but you've never improvised. It's a very lonely, very frustrating endeavor. Now, the frustration will never go away, but I try to build a community of people that are all working on it and that can communicate about it. And that's where the Discord comes in, right? And also Gabriel here is also part of this Discord.
You pass by sending videos to Christiaan-van-hemert and he okays them or tells you to do them again. So now,
and if I tell you to do them again, I also give you advice on what should improve. Now, I don't think actually Gabriel here ever failed an exercise. He passed all of them with flying colors. When he finished the book, I said it was the cleanest playing I've heard so far of all the set exercises, and I think it still holds true, especially also because he did every exercise at full speed, and that's not necessary. You can slow the backing track a little bit down. Now, there are some other players also that have finished the book that are very clean, but that doesn't take anything away from Just a Dude practicing. It was very, very clean.
I'll go into details of the last month of April. So the first change is that I started working on book 3 of the Van Hemert system, and book 3 is 1930s Django vocabulary, which is just so cool. I mean, it just sounds so tasty.
I want to take credit for it, but it's Django.
I've only had a look at chapters 1, 2, and 8, sort of jumping around. And it's just, I keep coming across licks where I think, I am going to play this over everything forever and ever. It just sounds really nice to my ears.
And so it's really nice for him, it's nice for him to say, but it's also nice to hear. And the reason is that because that is actually the criterion I use to decide if a phrase should go into a book. It has to be a phrase that I think, oh man, I wish this phrase would be part of my vocabulary. And with that I mean that I would actually use it during improv, and probably will get into it, because every phrase that's in all my books I can play. But there's only a small fraction of those phrases that are actually part of my real improv vocabulary. And we're going to talk about that more. But he recognizes that all these phrases that are in the book, they are gold, right? I don't put just any phrase. It has to be a superb ear catcher. Or it has to have some function that wasn't in the book yet. Like, okay, I need a phrase that uses not an altered scale or something. Or I want something with arpeggios. So it has to fill some gap in the book, and it has to be ear-catching. Or. My newest book, the bebop book, is the same. All the vocabulary in there is bebop vocabulary. But every phrase in the book, except for chapter 1, which is just bebop scales, which is the least interesting chapter, but all the other chapters, every phrase is transcribed from a genius level bebop player. And then I went through all the transcriptions I made, and then I picked from that genius player the most genius phrases, right? So that's why all the phrases are so great. It's just because I selected them with a very rigorous process.
So I started working on that. Change 2 for April is that I finally started working on soloing. So
improv, all right? Yeah.
I was spending all my time on book 2, and I wasn't really concerned with applying the material to soloing yet, because I just wanted to be able to physically play it.
It's not bad.
So now that I can do that, now I'm trying to apply it to music, which is a whole other level of difficulty for me. So here's the method I'm using to apply it to soloing, and this is something I got from Christiaan-van-hemert. I don't know if he got it from someone else, but I heard it from him. The idea is that you take a lick, you put on a backing track, and you play that lick wherever it fits.
I don't think that's from me specifically. I think that's just also a very logical way of practicing. If you think about it, you probably come up with the same idea. If you just spend enough time, it's like, okay, now I have this phrase, what do I do with? Well, just play it on a bunch of tunes, right? So it's not something that I invent or something. I think that's just what you do.
Whatever key it needs to be in. So it's basically copying and pasting. But I hope that doesn't make it sound easy, because it's anything but.
No, it's not easy.
I knew it was going to be difficult. And
Right, because last month I also reacted to his previous reflections or progress report, but that was only a private stream for the Discord or book owners actually. And then he was saying next month I'm gonna start with improv, and he seemed to be very enthusiastic about it, which was great. I hope you still are, by the way. But I felt that I had to temper this enthusiasm a little bit because it almost seemed like he was saying, okay, now I finished book 2 and now I'm going to do the improv. It's going to take me another month or something. I said, no, now we're talking about a process of years, like 4 to 5 years. Prepare for that. Prepare for the process of improv. I want to do like improv. Because, yeah, it's improv, but you're still trying to play a certain kind of vocabulary. You can't get away from that. Even if you just play your skills or something, you still need to make sure that somehow it relates to the tradition that you're playing in. So you need to find a way to make that work. So we're still talking about vocabulary. Now it can be weak vocabulary or good or excellent. But to get that vocabulary into your playing as an improviser is going to take years. Now, you will have progress during those years. And there will also be times that you progress a lot. You'll notice like, oh, the past 3 months, I really made a jump. But there will also be many, many months in a row that you feel like you're not progressing at all. And I've been through that whole process myself. And I'll talk about that more. But last video I already said in the reaction, temper, is that a good word? I don't know, but that's a good word. But temper or don't expect this process to go fast. Or not at all, actually. Just expect it to go super, super slow. But the fact that you can already play all of these things with good timing, because I'm very strict on the timing if you send me an exercise, on your swing 8th note timing. The fact that he sent me all those exercises played with excellent timing and excellent technique is a huge accomplishment. Never forget that, Gabriel. That's a huge accomplishment that a lot of people will never actually reach because they wouldn't put in the time to do that.
The first thing is, the first difficulty I'm having is remembering the licks. Because I learned all of these licks in the second book as sets, right? In a very particular order over all 12 keys. So now that I'm trying to recall them individually, right? I'm trying to pluck the licks that I need or want to use from this very long set. It's not easy, and a lot of the time I have to go back to the book and physically see it. And once I see it, I can play it. Right? I played all of them. I mean, probably thousands of times each. But yeah, I'm having to go and kind of visually see them before I can sort of pick them out of the set.
Okay, so this problem he's describing is completely normal and happens to everyone. And with everyone, I mean everyone that has ever practiced a phrase. It's very difficult to remember it in such a way that you can play it in a moment where you have complete freedom. Right? Okay, if you have a set exercise from my books, or you just practice this one lick and you go through a circle of 4 or something, yeah, you remember it. But as soon as I let you go, I say, okay, now fly. In here, we're going to play I Can Give You Anything But Love. Playing it under that circumstance is very, very difficult. And for several reasons, but here's the things that are going to happen. You're going to forget on which beat the lick starts. You're going to forget the first note. You're going to forget how it ends. You're going to forget the complete thing. It happened to me many times that I was practicing a lick for like 1.5 hours, and I was really working the lick, all 12 keys, making variations, doing this exercise that Gabriel was talking about, like playing it in every spot in the tune, and it was really going really well, and it felt good, you know. And then I took a break, went downstairs, got a drink. Half an hour later, I go back up, and I forgot the lick completely. I didn't even remember how it started, and I was working on it for 1.5 hours, and it was going really fine. And I have to look again at my transcription if I wrote it down. If I didn't write, I have to listen to it again and learn it again. Now, the second time I learn it, it goes faster. But I still have to remind myself. And I'll do it again. Work for 2 hours. Next day, same thing. Forgot it again. And this will go on for many days. So it's completely normal, and that's something that you have to accept. Now, I've thought about why this happens, and I can come up with many reasons. I think I have a good idea, but I don't know what it is exactly. And I also don't know if it's exactly the same for everyone. But for me, what I think is, for me, if I have a phrase that doesn't really connect to anything else that's already in my vocabulary, for instance, I never end on that note in other phrases, or it starts on a weird finger, or then it's very difficult for me to actually use it in improv, because I never get to the place on the guitar or in the music that I can actually play it. And the rare moments that I do, this phrase doesn't come to mind. That's why I let go of this task that I have to play something. I let that go many years ago. And I based that on another video I saw of a saxophone player, Bob. Forgot his name, but I will find his name and I'll put it on screen. But he said in a video that he told the students to not focus on the goal, but only focus on the work. And that's something I always say now. Say, don't focus on the goal, focus on the work. So if your goal is to practice a phrase, to be able to play it in your improvisations tonight at the jam or at the gig, or even the next day in a practice session, then you're going about it the wrong way, because the chance of you doing that is very low probability. So the only thing that will happen is that you will frustrate yourself endlessly and unnecessarily. If you focus on the work, like say, okay, I worked for 2 hours and it was working, and I worked on my timing, I worked on this phrase, that's it, that's enough. Now, if you go to a gig, what I do is I forget all of that and I just only play what comes to mind. I always say what pops into my mind. That could happen in many different ways. It could be something that I just see on the guitar neck at a certain point. It could be something that I hear. It could be something that I'm on playing on D flat 7, and I play something and I see something else, which I'm not playing at the moment. I think, oh, that was a great thing to play, and I try to remember it for the next chorus or something. It could be a reaction to something that happens in the band. I don't know what it is. I also don't control it. Something that pops into my mind. Now, if you start doing that, the problem is that you will have many gaps in your playing. Right? Maybe it works well on All of Me, but then somebody wants to play Cherokee, and there's many bars that nothing pops into your mind. And that's a gap, because I don't play anything if it doesn't pop into my mind. I can play some chords, that's a good solution, but you'll be very frustrated with all of these gaps, especially when you play with someone that doesn't have these gaps. Now I know, after many years of practicing, that these gaps will fill eventually, but it's gonna take a long time. But you shouldn't get discouraged by these gaps and say, okay, I need to fill these gaps for next week, because then you're going back to this thing of like forcing yourself to play something. And that can only go wrong. These things can only go wrong in my experience. So I never do that. If somebody calls to tune, let's say I go to a gig and somebody wants to play, what's a difficult tune to play? Maybe some way shorter tune, like Infant Eyes, or something really weird, maybe a Herbie Hancock tune. Maybe it could be Dolphin Dance, right? Let's say it's Dolphin Dance. Actually, I can actually play that, but let's say it's Dolphin Dance. I see it for the first time. I will have many gaps, and I will start working on it when I'm home on filling those gaps. But if I get to the gig, just see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I'll practice it again, and maybe in 3 years, these gaps will be filled. That's the way I work on it now, and I have been working on it for the past 6 years.
Yeah, so when I was going over the second book, I wasn't really looking to understand the licks on any sort of deep level. I wasn't picking them apart. There are notes that go into, flat 13ths and what's going on in the lick. And I would read them and just sort of forget whatever information I had seen, because, again, all I wanted to do was actually physically play them. Because I knew that it's not going to do me any good if I understand it, if I can't physically play it. So I was like, okay, step one.
Yeah, let me address that. So these notes are in the book. Why are these notes in the book? It's mainly because it's a book and I need to put something in it. I cannot only put the phrases. But to be honest, when I play, I never think about flat 13, flat 9, altered. I never think about that. I know all of this stuff because I knew the theory before I could play. And also because I was playing violin. I'll say more about that later. But I never think about that. I usually think about fingerings of certain phrases and how they sound. That's what I'm thinking about. And how to play them and the timing. So I never think about any theoretical information. Now it's in the book because I need to write something there, but I'm really not very interested in it. Now what does happen is that I have these categories that like these big buckets where I think, okay, maybe now I need to play some blues stuff, right? So then I have a bucket blues. Now what happens in the blues, I don't really know. I mean, I know the pentatonic scales, they exist, but I haven't learned any of those pentatonic boxes. I just know blues licks, right? So when I feel, okay, I need to play some blues, I start playing some... Okay, you could say, oh, this is all pentatonic stuff, Christian. Well, maybe, or definitely, I know it's pentatonic, but it's not the way I think about it. I just play blues phrases, and some of it is not pentatonic. It's just based on the triad, huh? So I have just a lot of blues vocabulary. I know a lot of blues stuff that I just transcribed, and it's a bucket blues. Now I have a bucket called minor 6 stuff. So I have lots of minor phrases that are based on the minor 6. Like I have a lot of that stuff in my fingers. I have lots of triplet licks, right? There's a bucket of triplet phrases, like something like right, stuff like that. Yeah, this is altered, but I don't think about it. It's just a triplet phrase that goes from E7 to A minor. I have a bucket with major phrases. I have a bucket with 2-5-1s. It's also the buckets that are in my book. I say, oh, 2-5-1 phrases, minor 2-5-1 phrases. I have a bucket called altered lines. They're basically based on diminished arpeggios going up and Phrygian dominant scales going down. But these names, Phrygian dominant and altered, these are names I found after I could already play it. Even though I knew the theory, I wasn't working like that. I was just looking at Stocklow's hand or listening to, well, actually, I was looking at him because I was playing with him and I saw him doing this stuff all the time, right? I would slow down the video, it's like, oh, it's like 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, and then there's this box, right? Now, it's a diminished arpeggio. I know that, but I don't think about it that way. It's just a fingering that sounds great on E7 or G7, right? Or B flat 7, or one more, G7, B flat 7, D flat 7, E7. Right, so I know it fits on those chords, and I know that if I'm here and I want to go down, I could go down like this. Right, it's a Phrygian dominant scale. I know that, but I actually only know that because of my YouTube channel. And when I was making a lesson about that, I figured I should say the name because people would otherwise be asking in the comments, what scale are you using? So now I call it Phrygian dominant because it is Phrygian dominant, but it's not how I think about it.
Actually play it. So yeah, so now I got my backing tracks. I'm picking out licks. I'm playing them, trying to see where they fit. So the first issue I'm having again is remembering them. The second issue I'm having is timing. So when a lick starts a little early or a little late, like let's say it's a lick in G and it doesn't start on the beat when G starts. Maybe it starts a beat early or a couple of beats later. Yeah, I have to count.
So this problem I can solve for you right now. First of all, I don't think you're talking about timing, or not in the way I use timing. Timing is your string eighth note consistency, and from your exercises I know that you have very good timing. So that cannot be the issue. You're talking about placing the phrases at the right moment, but I can solve this because there is no right moment. You can play them anywhere. That's why part of the practice with improv is always playing them as written, but then also try to play them 2 beats early and 2 beats later. But you could also do 1 beat earlier or 3 beats earlier, or it doesn't really matter. As long as you are still aware of where the backing track is, or where the cadence of the chords is, you can play those phrases anywhere. And it can go much further than you think, actually. You can go very wrong. As long as you kind of resolved on the 1 chord. Maybe I should demonstrate that. Should I demonstrate that? Do you want to hear that demonstrated? Let's take a tune. Let's take All of Me, because everyone knows All of Me, right? So let's find a phrase. So C, E7, and then it's A7 to D minor. So let's think about something from A7 to D minor. Let's do that. So A7, 3, 4. So if I want to play it exactly like that, I should play it in the second bar of A7 because it's 2 bars. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, E7, and A7, and... Okay, so let me play it like that. Exactly like that. Right? One more time. I'll count when I play it. Two, 3, 4. Okay. Now let's play this phrase way too early. And let's see what happens. Right? So I was 2 beats too early, but what I did is I realized, okay, I'm too early, but because I know where the backing track is and we're not on D minor yet, I know I shouldn't stop the phrase, but play something more until we hit D minor. So what I did is... Now let's play it even earlier. Let's play this phrase on the first bar of A7. So now I'll end actually 4 beats too early. So what I did is I played. I noticed, oh man, it's still bar of A7, but I'm already resolving to D minor. So you know what? Just play something else that fits on D minor until the D minor chord comes. So I played an F major 7 arpeggio, which is something that fits over D minor, which is in my second book. It's in my first book even. So now let's play it way too late. So now I'm gonna play this phrase on D minor, even though it's a phrase for A7. You know, that works. It doesn't matter. As long as you know where you are, you can do all of this stuff. I can actually probably play this phrase already on E7. Could I? Like just... Yeah, so now let's play this phrase on the second bar of E7, which is, then I still have a bar of E7 and 2 bars of A7. And just continue the A7 ideas until I hit D minor. So, Gabriel, you don't have to play these phrases at the moment that they are in the book. That's just one of the scenarios. Now, it takes a lot of experience to solve these issues. Oh yeah, full screen, you're right. Let's do something else. Let's, so the chords are C, E7, A7, D minor, E7, A minor, D7, G7, right? Let's start playing G7 on the D7. So I instead of having D7, G7, C, I would have 4 bars of G7. Let's see if that works. Never done that, but probably could work. Oh, full screen? Yep. Let's do it again. Yeah, I was playing G7 right over the D7, and of course it sounds a little bit odd in the beginning, but because I continued the line and played something else interesting or nice, I was playing tritone. it still works. The point is that you could take a lot of freedoms with the harmonic rhythm. It's called the harmonic rhythm. It's when the chords change. And you don't have to follow the harmonic rhythm of the rhythm section. It actually makes it more interesting if you don't do that. The only thing that's important then is that you realize where the harmonic rhythm is in the band. So that if you want to connect to it, you can. But you don't have to.
See it on the channel if you watch. I'll have to stare at the music, stare at the chords, and go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then start. So that's been a bit of a challenge. It's good. I mean, it's all a challenge, but it's just kind of funny because I've never had to deal with this before. Third thing, flow. Not even a concern right now. I'm not concerned with flow. The licks sound like I'm copying and pasting. That's just going to be how it is for a long time.
Yeah, you're right. And let me say more about that. So I'm just let's imagine jazz is a sport. It isn't, right? Because there's many ways of playing and it's all good. But let's say it's a competition. And there's you, and you're working on certain vocabulary that you really like. And there's the other guy, Mr. X, or Bob. Now, Bob has amazing flow, but all his vocabulary sucks. Right? You hear it's very not jazzy, or it's very abstract, and you don't really hear any story there or something ear-catching. It's just a good flow. Now, if it's a competition and you are working on the vocabulary but you don't have flow, Bob is going to win that competition every time because flow is way more important. But flow will come. Flow will come at a certain point. For instance, I have very good flow, but I didn't have good flow for many years. I was really struggling with it. And imagine that I came from violin, where I have endless flow. Right? On violin, I can flow forever, and I could already do that because I was playing with the Roseberg trio, and then I started playing guitar, and I didn't have flow at all. And some people would say, "But you want to play violin?" But it's not an instrument, and I'm playing completely different vocabulary, and it's also a very different way of thinking. This was just new, and I didn't have any flow. But if you work on your improv skills continuously, the flow will come. But vocabulary won't come. Vocabulary you actually have to work on, right? You have to work on vocabulary in the way that you're describing, or maybe any other way that is good. Maybe there are other ways. But you actually have to describe something and then figure out what they're doing and then practice the phrase, or maybe you practice the concept. But it's something that you haven't played before, and that just won't come naturally. Like, it's very rare for people to have very interesting vocabulary and then they tell you, "No, I've never transcribed anything." It's like one person that has that said that in a lesson to me was Peter Bernstein. Well, Peter Bernstein, of course, has a great flow, best flow on the planet maybe. And I took a lesson with him, an online lesson during the pandemic. There was like 15 guitar players. And somebody asked him about that, and he said, "Well, I've transcribed maybe 2 things in my life, 2 complete solos. But I never really practiced any licks." From that lesson, I do know that he was practicing many other ways. So he was practicing concepts a lot. So he would practice the concept of second intervals. And I actually think that is also another way of practicing vocabulary or practicing phrases. But he wasn't just sitting down in a jam and say, "Okay, the chord C7, oh, I know the Mixolydian sharp 11 scale, I'm going to play that." Because there's people that do that and they develop flow because, like I said before, flow will come. If you just practice improv and play with people, to go to jam sessions, flow will come, assuming that you develop your time. But the vocabulary is something that you need to practice separately. So if it's you and Bob has the flow, you don't have the flow, Bob is going to win. But if you meet 5 years later and Bob's vocabulary didn't improve, but you now have the flow and the vocabulary, then you win. Now, it's not a competition, but of course you want to be the best jazz improviser that you can be. And for that, you need flow, timing, and that is the base level that everybody has to have to be a fluent jazz improviser. But then the people that jump out of that are the people with the interesting vocabulary. Think about it. Think about all your favorite players. Why do you like them? Right? You like them because of the interesting vocabulary. You could say, "No, I like them for the timing," But all the top players have great timing. And there's lots of people that have great timing that don't have the interesting vocabulary. Those are probably not the people that you like. Just have the confidence that flow will come. And it will, if you keep practicing. But you also need to go out and play with people.
Yeah, so any time you see me work on improv, like I always put improv in quotes because it's very much baby steps towards learning how to improvise. It just sounds like one sort of lick after another with very little connection between them.
That's fine. I sounded like that for the longest time. The freedom only comes when you don't have any gaps. It's like the gaps I talked before. If you have enough vocabulary or licks or whatever you want to call it, tricks or mechanisms or devices to fill all the gaps in a particular tune that you're playing, if you have enough tools to fill all the gaps, then you will feel freedom. Because now actually you don't ever feel pressure of, this turnaround in minor comes up, I don't know what to do. If you have none of those hesitations or restrictions on your playing, then you will feel freedom and you will connect to the flow much easier. But that takes a long time, at least 5 years. From the point that you're at now, I'd say 3 to 5 years before you start feeling this flow. But in the meantime, you worked on the vocabulary. So once you have the flow, your vocabulary will be very interesting, or at least it will be distinct.
The other issue I'm dealing with learning how to solo, just a lot of gaps. There's just a lot of gaps in knowledge.
The gaps, yeah.
Like I said, I can physically play the licks in book 2, but if the music doesn't line up exactly with what I learned, I'm sort of at a loss. So there are a lot of times where I sit here and I just have to stare at the computer and try to figure out what's going on. I'll give you an example. Like I learned all these 2-5-1 licks, but in a lot of music, there are 2 5s, but there's no 1. So
I think you're talking about Hans Rose. These are very specific theoretical questions. Just ask them in the Discord. I think you did ask them. But Hans Rose, the first 4 bars, right? It's written down in many charts like G minor, C7, G minor 7, C7, 4 times like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's no 1. There's all 2 5. Whenever you see that, you can just think 5 for the whole time. So this is basically 4 bars of C7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Maybe you're talking about Suite 2, but Suite 2 is just Hans Rose in G, because then it's just. Or you could think the 2 chord the whole time. You could think 1, 2, 3, 4, G minor, 2, 3, 4, 3. And now you think 2, 5, right? You have freedom to ignore one of those 2 chords. In order to play a phrase that goes G minor, C7, just play G minor 7 for 3 bars or 2 bars and then play a 2-5 lick. That's possible. Or you could play 4 bars C7. Then you can use from book 2 the dominant loops, for example. All that stuff, That is a specific situation. I'm trying to think of other tunes that have 2-5 that doesn't resolve to 1. There's probably many, but every time you see that, just think 2 bars of the dominant chord.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I don't know anything about music theory. So I'll sit there and go, okay, so what, do I just not play the 1? But like...
Yeah, you shouldn't play the 1, of course, because that chord doesn't come, Just play stuff for 5.
The 5 flows into the 1. Do I just cut it off?
The 5 flows into the 1 in a 2-5-1 lick. But if you just take my dominant loops, they're just static dominant loops. You can play them endlessly on a 5 chord.
Like, is there a rule on when to end a 5?
There's no rule.
In a 2-5?
No.
Without the 1? Other questions I have are, what is an altered scale? I mean, I kind of know. I know I can play them. I just don't know exactly what they are. So sometimes I'll ask questions to people in christiaan-van-hemert's Discord group. And they'll say, oh, just play altered here, or change that to altered. And
okay. I can explain right now what is altered. There's basically 4 colors or 4 sounds that fit on dominant chords. One is called altered. One is called whole tone. One is called octatonic, or diminished half whole step, some people call it. And one is called normal. Some people say mixed lead in sharp 11. I'll show you these colors. So if we have C7, so I play C, B flat, E, that's 1, 7, 3, right, of the chords. I can add a 9 and a 13 and an 11. Now the 11 you can disregard because the 11, the sharp 11, is in all of those colors. So sharp 11 is a specific sound, this note, and it's a really pretty sound, but this sharp 11 is part of all of those colors. So it doesn't tell you anything about which color. That's why playing a sharp 11 is always good in your comping. If you do that, right, then the solo player can play anything of any of those 4 colors and it will always fit. But to make the colors, you should add a 9 and a 13. Now you need to add both of them to make the complete color. But if you only do one of them, then you play part of the color. So if you have a 9 and 13, there's 4 combinations. You can play 9 and 13. You can play flat 9, flat 13. You can play flat 9, natural 13. And you can play natural 9, flat 13. Those are the 4 colors and they all have a name. So let's say I play a 9, so that's a D, and a 13, that's a A. So I have this chord. That is what is called normal or mixed lead in sharp 11. If I play flat 9 and flat 13, so A flat and D flat, that is called altered. Yeah. If I play flat 9 and regular 13, that's called octatonic. So that is. If I play the natural 9 and the flat 13, it's called whole tone. That's the sound. Those are the 4 sounds. Now for your solo, it basically means that in your phrase, these notes are present. Now sometimes you have a phrase that only has a flat 9. So that could either be altered or it could be octatonic. Now if you phrase like this, on C7, that is altered. Why? D flat, A flat, right? Altered. If you have a phrase like this, that is whole tone. Why? Because flat 13, 9. If you have a phrase like this, that's octatonic. Why? Flat 9, but a 13. And then the last option was, I think I did them all, right? Did I do them all? Mixed lead, I did mixed lead in sharp 11. I did whole tone, I did altered. I did all of them. Now, that's good knowledge to have, but you can forget it immediately because you just need to learn phrases. And some of them will be altered, and some of them will be octatonic, and some of them will be whole tone. But that's not the thing that you're looking for. You're looking for something that sounds nice to you. Now, what does happen sometimes when I play is like, okay, I played a lot of altered phrases. Maybe it's time to play some octatonic stuff. Or maybe it's time to play some whole tone stuff, and I will do that. So that is it's something that does arise, but you don't have to worry about that now. Those are very specialized buckets. It will come with time.
I'm still trying to figure out what all these things actually mean. I haven't even dipped into substitutions. I'll ask people, hey, what do I play on this song? And they'll go, oh, you substitute this and that. I go,
Well, actually, you have been working with substitutions because I know you have book 1 also. So when I give you the first chapter, when I say this arpeggio is a C major 7 arpeggio, I said you can also play it on A minor. Now there's a substitution because now what you're doing is you're substituting the A minor with C major 7 in your head. But instead of thinking substitutions, I just think about, oh, this phrase is in the 4th finger minor position, right? It's a position for my system. And there, if I play this major 7 arpeggio there, or this fingering, that's something that fits over A minor. It fits over C major 7, fits over B7, it fits over D7, right? So I give you all those things. And so instead of, I don't come out and say it's a substitution, but those are substitutions. Or when you play this on G7, it's just a lick, of course, but you could also say, oh, it's A flat minor with a at 9. So what you're doing now is you're playing A flat minor at 9 on G7. It's a substitution. But I don't really think about it that way. It's just a phrase that fits on G7 for me.
The copy-paste version for now, because that's about as much as I can handle. I actually have a call set up with someone in the group for Friday or Saturday. I was trying to learn how to play Sweet Sue.
Oh yeah?
And
so that's Hans like a Rose?
where I just don't know what needs to go there. So I saw a video
Wait,
that he
what'd you say?
posted where sections where I just don't know what needs to go there. So I saw a video that he posted where I was trying to learn how to play Sweet Sue, and there are just sections where I just don't know what needs to go there. So I saw a video that he posted where he's just ripping through.
Now, Sweet Sue has some tricky parts. Not the A part, because the A part is basically 5 chords for 4 bars. And then the 1 chord for 4 bars. But then the bridge goes G7, F sharp 7, F7, E7. So what you should just play, if you wanted to make the simplest thing possible, then don't play on the first bar of the tune or the first beat, and then starts playing E7. So play E7 for 2 bars to A minor. So on this part, play E7 for 4 bars. But you just leave the first bar to the rhythm section, so then you don't have this distance too long. And then you start playing E7. I'll show you. I'll show you how that works. I will yell the chords I'm playing so that you know how little of the chords I'm actually playing to be coherent in that tune. I mean, that's an option, right? It's not something that you have to do. You can also play all the chords if you want to. I rarely do that. But sometimes I do. Play a little bit of the theme so we have the song in our head. D7. G. G7, leave it open. Now play E7. A minor. C minor. D7. Two for one lick. E7. Over those chords, you just play a chord that leads to the A minor. So it could be E7, it could also be B flat 7. It could also be a 2-5-1 lick to A minor, like one of the minor 2-5-1s that are in the book. Where there's this, in book 2, there's this really great Peter Bernstein 2-5-1 lick to minor that goes like this. You could play that there. So you just start around bar 2 in the bridge or bar 3. Right, so you can take any of the 2-5-1 licks, the minor 2-5-1 licks, and start them around bar 2, so that you'll be 1 bar too early for the A minor, or you start in bar 3, and it will be fine. Okay, let's continue with this great video.
There are just sections where I just don't know what needs to go there. So I saw a video that he posted where I mean, he's just ripping through. And I recognize all the licks he was playing because a lot of them are from the second book. And I messaged him. I'm like, hey, can we talk? Because I tried to play it and I don't know what to do. I listened to yours. Sounds great. I recognize the stuff, but I don't know why.
Great that you got into contact. And I think that's why what my Discord is for, right? It's to have this communication between, not only between me and people that bought my book or people that are in my Discord. You don't have to have bought my book to be in a Discord. There's an open section. But also between the people that are studying my books or just jazz guitar in general. So that's great. I'm really happy to see it. Maybe you can record the call. Would be interesting to post it maybe in the Discord if you want to. Let's see.
In book 2, trying to develop the speed and the picking patterns, because I didn't have any of that. I couldn't play any of it before. And I don't want to totally give it up. So I'm like, okay, I guess I need to do a little bit of triplet work, but now I'm juggling several things. Or before it was book 2, that's it. And now it's like, okay, book 2 upkeep, got to learn the new material in book 3. Got to work on not just the book 2 material, but also like very specific kind of fast stuff like the triplets and all that. Trying to figure out some basic theory. And the goal 4 weeks ago, up until 4 weeks ago, the goal was very clear. It was open up book 2 to whatever page you're working on, do that for 2 hours, then you're done, turn off the camera, go on with your day. Now I'm like, what do I need to focus on?
Welcome to being a jazz musician. I'm very sorry to say this is never going to end. This will be your life from now on when it comes to jazz guitar. It's what my life is. It's like, oh, man, I really want to work on this stuff, but I also need to, I was working on that other stuff, and these tunes that I have to play next week, and I have this other thing, and it's never ending. And that's maybe also a good thing because there's always something to work on, but it also can be overwhelming. And I'm overwhelmed basically every day. Now, when you see me play, you might not think it. It's like, man, it's for him, it's so easy to do all this stuff. Yes. You know why? Because I'm just playing what pops into my head, right? I'm not forcing myself to do anything. And that's why it's easy, because the things that pop into my head is stuff that I can already play, and that is easy to me. So, but the moment I start working on something new, I'm just where you are. It's like I'm overwhelmed, I'm thinking about it, I have to look at the tab again, I have to do the recording again, I lose my place, I make mistakes, my timing starts to suck. I'm exactly at the same stage. The only thing I have on you is that I'm just further down the road. Like I have already acquired a vocabulary, a lot of vocabulary that is part of me. That's just like it's like vocabulary that I use to tell a story every day. Like when I speak Dutch, or even when I speak English, I'm very fluent. But I'm using turn of phrases and sentences and words that I've used 100 times before in all kinds of situations, stressful situations, calm situations, tired situations. I've done it many times before, so when I have to do it again, it's gonna be easy. But let's say I'm reading a Shakespeare book, and now you ask me to have a dialogue with you, but speaking in that style, it's gonna be very difficult for me. I wouldn't be able to do it because I've never done it before. But if I do that for 5 years, probably it's going to be a lot easier. If you take an actor that has been playing for the Shakespeare Company, if that's a thing, by the way, for his whole life, probably he's able to do it in some way, right? So.
I mean, I haven't even started rhythm. I haven't even started working on
Okay, so
guitar.
go do that.
Yeah.
If you start rhythm now, with your technique, you have great technique and your sense of rhythm, timing, you should be able to play solid rhythm within 2 months, 2 to 3 months. But you have to start now. Go to my video, my rhythm tutorial, then start doing that, learn to play minor swing, then go to my series called Ultimate Rhythm Workout. Is that what it's called? What is it called, people in the chat? It's like the rhythm workout, I think. Gypsy Jazz Rhythm Workout. It's a whole series where you can play with a bass in 2 and 4. And then there is the ELO challenge for rhythm, which is great, but it has a lot of difficult stuff. So that's for much later. But I have so much rhythm learning materials. And I think if you do that every day for like 15 to 20 minutes, in 3 months, you can play rhythm for many tunes. I'm not saying it's the best rhythm ever, but it will be good enough to jam.
Things are a little bit overwhelming right now. So every day I'm approaching practice with a question mark just hanging over my head.
Yeah, me too, every day.
Okay, change 4. I think it's related.
The Ultimate Gypsy Jazz Rhythm Workout. Great title.
The 4th change I'm dealing with is I've definitely had a dip in motivation the last
The Ultimate
week or
Fighting
so.
Championship.
Part of it is the overwhelm. A lot of it's just feeling like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, but I already expected this, and I said that in the previous time I reacted to you. The dip in motivation is not something I can prevent. You know, when I started learning to play jazz, so let me tell a little bit about how that went, right? So I started learning to play jazz on violin. I met Stochelo, and he basically inspired me to practice. I had some lessons before, but it really didn't take, because it was very theoretical, and it was really not. We were really not playing, like really not. He wasn't really trying to get me to play nice. It was just more a theoretical thing, like, okay, you could play, you could be doing this thing here, or you could be playing that thing. And I learned a lot of theory, but I didn't really learn how to play. So for the longest time, I had this attitude, which I believed to be authentic, but I later discovered it wasn't, where I said stuff like, I love the sound of jazz, but I don't like the concept. I said that many times, because I was an arranger at the time, right? I was arranging for orchestras. I arranged for the Metropole Orchestra in the Netherlands, a famous orchestra. I arranged for string quartets, for jazz, for big bands. And because I understood jazz very well, like the concept of it. And I was always saying, I love the concept. I don't like this. No, I love the sound, but I don't like the concept of like getting together and just jamming, playing the theme once, and then like playing 500 choruses and then do another tune. Like, it's pretty boring. Until I was able to do it, then it's the coolest thing ever. That's how it goes, right? So I was just trying to shield myself from the disappointment of not being able to do it. But when I met Stochelo, I saw them jam. It's like, oh, it is the coolest thing ever, and I'm lying to myself. I want to be able to do it. And Stochelo was the one who told me, like, oh, if you want to do this, then, I mean, just learn some Grappelli solos. That's what he said to me. Learn Grappelli solos, because I was working with him in an orchestra. Right? I was conducting an orchestra, and he was a soloist, and I was playing violin. I was the conductor, but I also played the theme of Embraceable You, like slowly, together with Stochelo before the orchestra started, and then he was playing a solo. But I wasn't playing a solo. And when he asked me why I wasn't playing a solo, I said, well, I'm not really capable of doing it, but I would love to be able to do it. I said, secret. I said, just learn some Grappelli solos. And I said, is that what you did? I said, yeah, I learned I learned all Django solos on recordings I had at home, like 80 solos or even more, and he can still play all of those solos. It's amazing. He sometimes he needs a little time, or he needs to hear it again, but then he can play it because he learned them as a child, so it's ingrained. And I started doing that. I started learning. I think I learned like 60 Grappelli solos, something in the neighborhood of 60. And I started making these huge PDFs, categorizing certain things, like, okay, what does Grappelli do in high positions? Like, what does Grappelli do when he wants to play blues? Stuff like that. And then after 2 years, I started doing that. I got into contact with the Rosenberg Trio again through my management, because we had the same management. And they put me together with the trio to do a concert tour. And I was there to organize the theater experience, because I had a lot of experience with that. And the Rosenberg Trio was more of a concert group, but now they had to have a theater with a show, like talking to the audience. There was lights and stuff. And Stochelo wasn't very comfortable talking at that time. So my manager said, okay, you play with them. It's a good chance for you. And then you work with Stochelo on the presentation. And we did that. It was a really great time. Of course, then I discovered, even though I learned all of this stuff, I couldn't play with the Rosenberg Trio at their level. I basically sucked very, very bad. I'm very happy. This was the time before everybody started filming concerts and putting on YouTube. There is some stuff, but not a lot, luckily, because I was bad. But I worked my ass off in that time because I know just like, okay, if I want to be playing with the Roseburg Trio next year, I need to get a lot better in this year. So and they have to know that I'm getting better. So I worked my ass off on the violin year after year, and I got better and better until after like 5-6 years. There really was no difference between me and Stockelo when it came to flow or just being musical. It was like, I wouldn't say equal, but for the audience, it was equal, right? I knew, of course, like Stockelo is another level, but the speed was okay. But in that time, I started learning to play guitar because of the Roseburg Academy. We started the Roseburg Academy, Stockelo and me, and of course, I didn't play guitar back then, but because of the Roseburg Academy, I started to play guitar. And then it started all over again, where I was so bad on guitar. And now it was even more frustrating because I already had this flow on violin. I knew what it felt like to be playing well, to be playing smoothly with flow and interesting vocabulary. And a lot of people that I was jamming with, they already knew me from violin, so they had high expectations. It's like, oh, yeah, it's probably very easy for him. But then I sucked so bad. And not only my vocabulary, but also my timing and my technique. Everything sucked. It was like I was a complete beginner again. But I really, really wanted to be able to do it. Just, I loved it so much. So I knew that there was a path towards excellence. It's just practicing more. But where you are right now, and this dip of motivation, I've been there for years, where I would work on something at home, and I had the feeling I made progress, and then I would go to a jam session, and I would basically not be able to play anything all the time. And like technique is one of the things. Like I had the feeling my technique was okay, but then I came to a jam and I couldn't even play half of the speed I was doing at home, and it just felt very stiff. The strings felt stiff. I was making mistakes. My pick got stuck. Nothing worked. And that's where I discovered, I discovered a couple of things. But one of the things I discovered is that playing at home with a backing track is not the same as playing in a jam. Because in a jam, there are so many parameters that you cannot control. It's like the volume of the backing. You can put the backing lower when you play at home, and you can play like this now. Very soft picking, and maybe your timing is great when you pick like that. But when there is a very loud rhythm guitar, or even worse, 5 very loud rhythm guitars, and you feel like you have to make sound, probably the first thing that will happen is your timing will go and your technique. So basically, everything that you were capable of doing is out of the window. You need to learn how to deal with that, and you can only deal with that situation in real life scenarios. That's why those Sinti are so good, because that's what they do from a young age, right? They work on vocabulary by learning solos for Django or Stockelo, but they're also jamming all the time with one another. And they're young, right? So they're playing super fast and super loud and super sloppy. But the sloppiness is going away bit by bit, right? They start when they were like 10, bit by bit, but they're already used to this volume, to making this volume and to make yourself heard. So by the time they're 16, the sloppiness is gone, and all that is left is just jaw-dropping playing, technique and lines. You have to put yourself in that same situation as much as you can by going to festivals and jamming with people, right? And making a fool out of yourself. Be humble, be respectful. Don't take 10 choruses when you're playing with someone that's great, but try one chorus. And don't be too apologetic about it. Just try your best. Try to play some good lines. People that are in the know will appreciate your effort of playing good lines. But if you start talking, and like, they won't appreciate that, right? Now they know you're bullshitting. But if you just have one time, right? You have that one time, they will appreciate. They will probably yell, "Yeah, man." They will say something like that because they understand the stage you're at. But you have to expose yourself to that stage. That's the only thing I can say about it. And it will also motivate you. Because if you go to a festival and you see the people having so much fun and making great music, and it's the fun they are having, and that's in the jam session. You can also go to a concert and see what it is like to watch people that are used to playing for massive audiences. That will motivate you. So go do that. Christoph Carrington says, +1 on the Christiaan's rhythm workout. I recommend it to every new player. I think in episode 1, Your link to a bunch of other helpful videos helped me a bunch in the beginning. And Christoph Carrington is a great rhythm player. So I know now he learned to play rhythm in the beginning from my videos. So that's a huge compliment to my videos. Gabriel, I will put in Discord this. Christoph, maybe you could put in the general channel and tag Gabriel with that video you're talking about.
Doing, again, things aren't very clear, and everyone else seems to know what to do.
No,
when it comes to music.
it's not true.
Like I mentioned, I look at the chords to a song and I think, well, what do I play over this? I know something, I just don't know what it is. There were a couple of days where I didn't want to practice in the last week, and that was a bummer because I haven't really had to deal with that. Luckily, my wife helped me out. She basically said, "Don't be like that. It's going well. Keep at it." More or less, she said it, in more of a wife way. Having the channel helped big time. I've come to really enjoy posting the videos, posting the practice sessions. I mean, not many people watch them, which is fine. That's not the point. But it's a nice accountability system I've got going. So I think one day,
very good idea,
1 or 2 days, because I didn't want to practice.
Hey, maybe we should do a session, Gabriel, for both our channels, and you can ask me any question that you want, and I can answer them and demonstrate. Maybe you could play something. Might be a good idea. Let's think about that.
Practice, but for the most part, I've been pushing through and just trying to remember that I've only been taking this seriously for 6 months.
It's nothing.
Which is nothing in music terms.
Right.
And, when motivation fails, you just fall back onto routine. So, Anyway, I don't want to bum anyone out. Another change, I posted 3 shorts on the channel. They are the last 3 chapters of book 2, which are composed solos.
Yeah, nice.
On the channel, they're called This Took Me a Month to Learn, number 1, number 2, number 3. I just thought it'd be nice to have something kind of like a finished product on the channel, on the YouTube channel. They're not close to perfect, but that's what I can do right now.
No, I thought they were pretty good.
Actually, that's what I could do 4 weeks ago. I tried to play one of them yesterday and didn't remember it.
Normal.
I could play the parts I did remember, which is nice, like the triplet stuff. Apparently I drilled that enough. But I have kind of forgotten how to play those solos, so I need to review them. But yes, so there are 3 shorts on the channel if you want to go and look at them. And I think the last big change is something I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been asked to, so I put up those shorts, and I had 2 people get in touch with me, asking if I want to jam or do gigs with them. And I said no.
What? Yes.
Because I can't.
You can.
I'm working on learning how to solo.
Okay. You can't at the level that you want to. And that's understandable. But like I said, you have to accept it. You don't have to do a gig, but you can jam. And just, if you feel nervous about that, there's nothing wrong with saying, listen, guys, I don't have the confidence, but I really want to jam because I know now, I've heard from Christiaan also, that it is important for me. Is it possible to have these 5 songs? And then I'll do the best I can. Maybe you can give me some tips because I'm not confident at all, right? And then you will find, I don't know who these people are, that they also have the same doubts and issues. So, but go do it. Even better, go to a festival, go to Django Fest Northwest, right? Even if it's just to check it out. Bring your guitar, learn some tunes to play rhythm, and just start playing rhythm. Go to Django in June. You could go there, but there's no concert. No, there is concert, so that's great to go, but it's very expensive, of course. You can go to Django Fest Midwest. You can go to the one in New York. What is it called again? Django Agogo. There's many more, but that's even better if you can go to a festival and be surrounded by other people that have the same trepidations of joining a jam that you have, but also see other people that are jamming, and you see them from every level, from beginners that can barely play rhythm, but they still have the guts to go and jam. Sometimes not always a good thing, by the way, but still, to people that are just unbelievably good, and you don't understand how they got so good and you start doubting your own abilities and you think they have talent that I don't have. You have to see all of that, and you have to see the camaraderie. You have to see the friendships, and you have to see the fun, and you have to see the drinking, not necessarily alcohol, but just having fun and eating and watching the concerts of the grandmasters. You have to go to one of those things. Oh, he's located in South Korea. You're right. He's in South Korea. Right. Oh, yeah. Then, there must be festivals there. Okay.
But I cannot solo right now. And I certainly can't gig. I don't have the repertoire. My rhythm sucks, I'm sure. Like I did it for one day in the last month. It was the first time I'd done it in a very long time. I can barely remember how to do gypsy rhythm. So these folks saw those shorts and were like, oh, well, that's what he can play all the time. This must be representative of, him as a musician. They didn't realize that is representative of me spending a month on, those 45-second solos. So I said no. And I hear this advice a lot. And if you're a musician or guitarist or hoping to be a jazz guitarist, I'm sure you see it all the time too. It's play with other people. And that's great, except there's such thing as not being ready to play with other people. Right?
There is really no such thing. There is a thing as not being ready to play with certain people. But there's no such thing as not being able to play with other people. Well, if you cannot play guitar at all, but trust me, I've seen lots of people that cannot play guitar at all still join a jam. You shouldn't do that. But you actually play really well, guitar. Of course, you can play a solo at a high level, because if you'd be able to do that, you wouldn't have bought my books, right? There would be no point to that. But you are definitely ready to play with other people. If I would ever meet you, I'd be jamming with you, no problem. Here's the thing, you don't have to play great solos. No, you shouldn't wait until you can play great solos, because that moment will actually never come. If you don't play with other people, that moment will never come, because the extra pressure of playing with other people will actually take off. Well, in the beginning, it will take off 80% of your skills. So imagine your best self and then 20% of that. But it will never be 100%, or almost never. It will always be, if you're at like peak level, you feel great and the sound is great, it'd still be around like 85, 90% of what you can actually do. And that's just normal. You have to get used to that. But the goal is to be able to sound good at 60%. Because that basically means that you can sound good under any circumstance. That's where I'm at now, right? You can put me in any situation and I'm going to probably sound pretty good. Not always as good as I want to sound, but pretty good. At least it will be flowing. I won't play any bullshit. The time will be okay. I can make it work. But to get to that stage, I had to fall flat on my face for hundreds of times. And that's how it is. And that's how it is with everyone. That's how it was with Stockholm. Because when he was 10, he was probably also falling on his face many times, but it was within the confines of the gypsy camp with other kids that also didn't play well. So you cannot replicate that situation, but you can try to seek out situations where you have the opportunity to fail. And the best way to do that is to have a small jam. Intimate jam, could even be in a little cafe where people are not going to hear the most amazing players. Because one day, if you do that, you'll probably be ready for that moment that you can actually play and people could be watching you and enjoying it. But it won't happen overnight, and it also won't happen if you don't expose yourself to all the situations that you're going to fail. And I have many people here in the chat that can attest to that you have to go out there and jam. You have to do it.
I know people like to say dive in. People like to say, well, just go and do it before you think you're ready. So what am I going to do? Let's say I go to a jam where I'm at right now. Like in my current state, right, my current level, I can't put on a backing track in the comfort of my room here on my couch and successfully play over it. Like I can't even do a full chorus without having to stop and go, what is that? Right? What do I play over that? Or making mistakes. So as much as I think there comes a point where you just need to get out and start playing with other people, and that'll lead to growth.
True.
Until you can, again, sit here with a backing track in the comfort of your own home and do it, why add a layer of complexity like going and trying to do it live with other people?
This sounds very logical, but there's a big difference between playing with a backing track and playing live. One of the differences is actually in your advantage here. The difference is that if you use a backing track, for instance, on my channel, it's 20 minutes. You need to play 20 minutes. If you want to do the whole backing track, it's 20 minutes of playing good lines. It's almost impossible. But even if you do like just 4 choruses, it's still 4 choruses. But if you go to a jam, you can probably get away with 1 chorus. That's a very short amount of time. You can actually figure that out a little bit before at home. It's like, you know what? We have to play coquette. I'm going to start with this major 7. And I'm going to play some chords. And I play the diminished arpeggio. And I'm going to play. You play this great lick you have. Bridge, I'm just going to do some chords. I'm going to play the diminished arpeggio. Play the same diminished arpeggio on A7. And then I'm going to play some. Right, you could work it out a little bit like that. Now you probably fail if you do it live, but it's only 1 chorus. So, and then there's a bunch of other tunes that you don't know solo. So you say, guys, for me on this tune no solo, and you just play rhythm. So you need to be able to play rhythm for like 20 tunes. And there's a list on my Discord with the 20 tunes I propose that you learn. You should be able to do that within a half year. And then you can go to any jam and be confident that you can at least participate. Not at the highest level that you want to participate at, but that will come in 5 years. But only if you keep practicing and if you actually go out to play with other people. You need to do it and you need to start now. That sounds very strict, but I know how you play, and your technique and timing is much better than a lot of people that are jamming, right? So maybe they have a little bit of better flow than you because, right, you're trying to play good vocabulary and you have many gaps. Accept it. That's just how it is. That's where I was for many years, and if you like my playing now, it wasn't always like that. But I did go out and jam with people and play with people when I sucked. And if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be able to play the way I play now. It's just a fact.
Like I just don't have the material. I don't have the speed. So the bar I have for myself is I don't have to be good. I just have to be adequate at solo.
Yes, but adequate at soloing is good. So you're making a distinction here between good and adequate at soloing. Adequate at soloing, but it's genius. It's better than good. It's extremely good. Adequate at soloing is so good that very few people reach that level. Think about that. Of all the guitar players that you know that play jazz, very few people reach a level of adequate soloing. Are only people jamming that are good are adequate soloists? No. Most of the people that are jamming are not adequate soloists. They have huge problems. Either be timing, vocabulary, gaps, lack of knowledge, of tune knowledge, right? They have to look up every tune, even if it's a tune they've played 500 times before. They have to look it up in the charts. Stuff like that. Most people have huge timing issues. At least you know what it is to play with good timing. You know what good vocabulary is. That's already, you have a step up from a lot of people there. But you're still afraid of jamming. And I understand this feeling very well because I was already playing with the Rosenberg trio and then violin, right? And then I went to Samoa with my guitar and I was afraid to join a jam. Because of the same thing that you are saying now. It's like, I'm not good enough to join a jam with my guitar. And then I would just play violin, right? But at one point I realized, okay, when I started playing violin, I didn't have this feeling. Because I had the feeling, but I didn't know what good was yet. So I just joined the jam with my violin even when I was bad. I was playing with the Rosenberg trio when I was bad. And so I said, okay, I have to just do the same thing with guitar and just sit down and suck. And don't say, guys, I'm gonna suck. Don't do that. But show it in different ways, by playing only one chorus, by being a very agreeable person, by being humble, being respectful towards players that are better than you. And if you have that attitude and you can play rhythm, then everybody would love to have you at the jam. Doesn't matter how good you are. Now, if you start playing 5 choruses and they all suck and you do it every tune, then it's going to be a problem. But I don't think you have that kind of personality. So,
right? I just have to be able to, again, I'll know when it's time to go and start jamming with other people or doing gigs, when I can put on a backing track and play some noise that fits, right? Play some appropriate noise.
Yeah, but you can already do that. If you just take a tune, one tune, and figure out one chorus, you can actually already probably do that tomorrow. If you just take Coquette and you say, okay, first 2 bars, I'm going to take this phrase from book 2, and then the 2-5-1 here, you can already do that. Because you don't need more than one chorus. Remember that.
But until then, I'm not just going to magically, sit down with real people and just be able to do it. So I've set a low bar, but that bar is still kind of way above where I am right now.
I'm reminded of playing like a shooter, on video games or chess. Let's do both. So let's say you play chess. You learn to play chess. Now, learning chess has a very, very many similarities to being a jazz improviser. So a lick in chess, you could see it as a opening, something that you learn some opening, the Caro-Kann opening, and you start. The first 4 moves very easy because always the same. But then there's many variations, and you choose. Okay, I'm gonna learn this variation. It's like, okay, when the knight moves there, I have to put my bishop there, and it goes well. Like you playing it against the computer, you do all the moves. Like, okay, yeah. But then you sit down with a real player, and on the 4th move, this person does a move that you've never seen before. And you think about it, and none of your stuff actually works now. What are you going to do, right? You're just going to wing it and see what happens. That's one scenario. The second scenario is that you forget what the 5th... He's doing actually the move that you were expecting, but then you forget... Is it now E2 or E2, E4, or is it E2, E3? And you start doubting, and you do the wrong move, and now nothing works anymore. So... you can only discover this if you actually start playing a game against real people. Because if you only sit at home and do the openings over and over again, of course that's going to work. You can be an expert at playing a certain line of the Caro-Kann on your own. But against real players, a lot of stuff can happen. You can play a guy that doesn't know any openings, but he pushes all the pawns, one pawn after another, 1 square, 2 squares, 1 square, 2 squares. I can promise you, you will lose to this guy, even though he doesn't know any of the openings that you've studied. It's just because you didn't have any experience with somebody like that, and you would have never gotten this experience unless you start playing with a real person, because a computer's never going to play like that. Now, let's say you play a shooter game. You could play like one of the Battle Royale games, maybe play Warzone, or you play Fortnite, or you play an arena shooter, or maybe you play Call of Duty. You could spend a lot of time in an aim trainer, right? Doing all the tracking and 3D 360 shooting, or a moving target, 1v1 duels, stuff like that. And you say, I'm not going to go into a real game until I get this score, or until I get onto the scoreboard in the top 1,000, which is very tough. You could actually spend years on that. I promise you, the moment, if you think then you're ready to play a real game, and you start playing... you go into a game Warzone, you will die within the first 5 minutes, because so much stuff is happening that you didn't account for. Some guy that's just shooting randomly, a guy that is only using a sniper all the time, or with 5 snipers at the same time. The situations that you will encounter in a real game are not comparable to your time spent in an aim trainer. Now, your aim might have gotten very good, but now you notice like your aim is not helping you at all, right? What you should have done is the aim training at the same time as playing real games. And that's the same with the jazz guitar. You should work on vocabulary and the metronome system and the backing tracks at the same time you go out and play a real game. Because you won't get the experience needed to be good at the real game unless you start playing the real games.
Okay. All right. Where I want to be a month from now, I'm going to keep it simple. I want to be practicing 2 hours a day. I want to be working on book 3. I want to be working on soloing using books 1, 2, and 3. I want to hopefully be injury-free. That'd be nice. And I think the biggest thing is I want to figure out the answers to these questions I have. Again, it might sound like I'm joking, but stuff like altered. Like, I want to figure out when to play altered stuff and the altered stuff that I know.
You can play altered on any dominant. That's it. Best probably to play it on a dominant that resolves to a 1, but even if it doesn't, you can still play it. Doesn't probably sound as nice, but any dominant.
I want to figure out how to play over 2 5s when they don't resolve to the 1.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm at. I'm not exactly sure, so I kind of want to dig in. I don't think it'll be too difficult. So if possible, I'd like to square that away in the next month or 2. The biggest potential challenge that I'm going to have this month, May, is that I'm going to be leaving for close to 2 weeks, leaving home for close to 2 weeks at the end of May into the first or second week of June. So I'm not going to bring a guitar just because, I don't know, I'm taking it seriously, but not serious enough to bring it when I have to go. It's not exactly vacation/work trip. So I'm not going to practice for 2 weeks. Hopefully my hand will heal up. I'm going to get back, and it's going to be brutal, I know. Unfortunately, I'm going to be 2 hours away from Django in June, but I'm going to be leaving Boston the day that it starts. So I just can't extend the trip that long. So that's kind of a bummer.
That's a bummer.
Anyway, that was really long. I rambled a lot.
I rambled
if you have
even
any
more.
comments or questions, get in touch.
Okay, so Gian has a good, Gian Compuesto here in the chat has a good suggestion for you. He says, maybe a goal for next month could be embrace being uncomfortable and play in a live setting with some people. Yeah, and that is a good goal. And also, let's do a session, Gabriel. Let's record a session, which we can use for both our channels. You could reflect on the session. I could reflect in my way. Be interesting, because a lot of the problems that you perceive as problems are not problems. They are problems, but they are not unique to you. They are present in everyone that's trying to get better at jazz guitar, including me. So, and I know it's hard to believe that, right? People. When I play now with people, first of all, I'm usually way better than people think I am, just because they watch some old video or they seen some video where I'm trying something that's also new to me. But when I'm playing in the jam, I'm playing differently, right? So some people are very surprised, but then the next thing they think is like they think it's automatic for me or something like didn't take me any effort to learn it. But I'm here to tell you that that is completely not true. It's the opposite. It was very difficult for me. I was very frustrated. I wanted to give up many times because, I think I can already play violin. Why am I trying this thing with guitar? Just stick to violin. I stuck with it because I love to play guitar. I like it better than violin in some ways. Not every way, but some ways. And I'm so happy I stuck with it. And I still have these struggles because I'm trying to learn new stuff all the time. And I have the same feeling of defeat also every time. But I know now that it's just temporary. Could be a very long temporary, but it is temporary. I know that at one point I will defeat this boss. and then I'm ready for the next boss, So that's it. Any questions in the chat about this? Or comments?